Oh, you were supposed to continue the communication.
I don't play by your rules.
Arrived at the Airbnb. Kylor says he's working. I don't know. He ain't working, he's right there. Look at that fool.
What's up, man?
What's up, buddy?
I'm a little potent. You can spit it out if you need to.
No, I need to do it in phases. Yeah, I have to keep my eyes. She's like, my eyes, I'm crying. It's fine.
Welcome to Eastern.
Shot king.
So this is
Shot king.
So this must be like how they do in Washington. They were not better than us. You watch your games? We were.
The money I just need to save for grad school.
Oh man, what are you doing?
Dallas blonde.
It tastes stale.
You can do it at JSU.
Or is it the only one I opened?
Super fat.
We're on in Alabama.
Spring cocktails.
Woo! To the playoffs.
To the playoffs. And all you did was go 3 hours away. I know, it's been a movie. Alright, we good? It's called Snacks. Baseball swung that shit out of that one. The map, you might win.
Salute. Cheers it up, boys.
Hey!
Let's go.
Well, I only got so many hands, bro.
Dude, amazing.
I'm sure that's what I'm at as well. I ran out of water to kick.
Yes, sir.
If it's like this,
We're all good.
yeah.
I'll grab a cue.
Bison rib.
Bison rib. Look at this sucker. Oh. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's man meat right there.
Wait. Nice shirt.
Oh, you're Kylor. You don't have to hold your tongue out. I just thought you were an actual reference. No, that's weird. You look like everybody else in here except for that. Hey, chill. Okay. Your college transfer that was Kylor. Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna be nice and tight.
So you gotta keep going, you gotta keep going, you gotta keep going.
2 in a row for Fans Nation. Boo! Chris!
to the official podcast of FCS Fans Nation with your hosts Kylor Neal, Matthew Frazee, and Jamie Williams.
FCS Fans Nation, live! Welcome to the mock playoff bracket special. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Coming up on 100 viewers, intro after intro, but why wouldn't we make it special? Kylor Neal, Jamie Williams, Matt Frazee, and special guest, good friend, The Rev, coming to you live on a Sunday night. We hope your Sunday's been as incredible as Buffalo Bills fan Jamie Williams and others. Gentlemen, we are here. We are closing in Selection Sunday next week after a final week of a 12-game season. And FCS Fans Nation is excited. We've been blasting social media. People have been commenting, asking about this episode. And here we are. It's our favorite one of the year. It is time for us to play a little Mel Kiper, a little Todd McShay of FCS brackets and mock predict the FCS playoff field. Excited to be here. Rev, I hear from these other two all the time. They're constantly telling me how great their lives are, how happy they are. Sir, you're going to be assisting us with some comment control here, popping them up and making a few predictions for us as well. How are you doing this evening as we kick off the mock playoff special, my man?
Oh, I'm doing great, especially because I'm hanging out with the two greatest guys in the world, Kylor and Jamie, and the other greatest guy in the world, Matt.
Oh,
see?
Too kind.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We built up the suspense for these individuals, and they've probably had long weekends, and they're ready to relax a little bit with us and learn what the playoff bracket might look like come next week for Selection Sunday. Now, let me just set the stage a little bit like I do every year before we kick into this thing. We are not trying to predict perfectly what this bracket is going to look like. Yes, last year, actually, if you look at what this show did in comparison to the bracket, it was honestly quite shocking how well it lined up. So we're not actually trying to predict it, though. What we're trying to do is give you guys some insights into a few things. How might the committee think next Sunday morning, Saturday night when they decide on the playoff bracket? What are some of the factors that are considered, combined with what are the resumes of the teams that have a shot to be in next week? Now, to be able to do this, we have to do a few things. And the first thing that we have to do, guys, is actually predict some of the games for next week and adjust what things look like. Because we've got another week of football coming up. So I hope you guys are ready to get rolling. It's going to be a similar format than we've done in the last few years. And Kylor Neal, you ready to go? You've been excited for basketball, but you ready for this one? Should we kick it off?
We finally got a win, so I'm excited, man.
With a basketball score.
With a basketball score, man. Yeah, I was happy. So let's do this. This is just making this episode really exciting for me because now I feel like some of you guys. I know what a win feels like. Sorry, Rev.
Sorry, Rev. Oh, Steven up Austin. We'll see if their playoff hopes are alive or not as we are about to kick things off here on the mock playoff special. Let's not waste anybody's time. Let's kick right into it, guys. And we're going to start pretty simple of where we are right now, of where we sit with the FCS playoff situation. And that starts us off with who are our current auto bids. And right now, as we sit here on November 17th, the Big Sky auto bid has gone to the undefeated Montana State Bobcats. Congratulations to them. Heck of a year so far. The CAA, as Jamie Williams, take a screen bow, predicted, the Richmond Spiders did win the auto bid. And yes, that was a long time prediction coming. So kudos to you, Jamie, on that one, my man. The Southern, this was 2 weeks ago, we found out Mercer was the auto bid. And the word FCS Trivium, I know I said that wrong.
Triumvirate.
There you go.
Trivium.
Trivium.
Well, they are kind of like Garage Time. They're forever the Trivium.
Yeah. Well, the Southland, regardless, has been won by Incarnate Word. And the United Athletic goes to Abilene Christian just this week. So we have 5 teams that have punched their ticket to the playoff bracket. Now, where will they end up with the seeds and their matchups? You're going to have to stay tuned, as 100 of you are, to see where that goes. So here's the thing, guys. Next week's games do matter before we start selecting the playoff field. And for us to do that, we need to know who's won, who's lost. We are not going to predict all the games that are going to matter for next week because we feel like a lot of them are pretty obvious. Now, you guys might disagree with this next slide, but these are the games next week that we are just going to walk through one by one because some of you are going to listen to this on audio on FCS Gold and other platforms. You're not all going to watch it on YouTube. But let me click over to our next slide, and we're going to go into our games that are decided. So for next week, guys, this is what we are predicting to happen that we're not going to predict. We're going to have some predictions after this screen. We think UC Davis beats FBS crap Sacramento State to finish 10-2. We think Idaho beats Idaho State in the rivalry game to go 9-3. UT Martin defeats Lindenwood, be 8-4. Rhode Island is going to beat Bryant to finish 10-2. Stony Brook beats Monmouth. I don't know. Yeah, that one, maybe, but finish 9-3. Villanova will lose to Delaware to finish 8-4. We're actually predicting that the Delaware-bound FBS team actually will beat Villanova. New Hampshire is going to beat Maine to finish 8-4. NC Central, still in the race, will beat Delaware State to finish 8-3. South Dakota State will destroy Missouri State to finish 10-2. Illinois State will beat UND to finish 9-3. UND might have been one we would have thrown in that prediction category, but they have shown so much vulnerability. We just don't see it happening for them on the road, especially. This is a big one right here. Drake will beat Stetson next week to finish 8-2, and they will be the Pioneer auto bid into the playoffs. Our last one's going through quickly. Mercer beats Furman for 10-2. Incarnate Word beats East Texas A&M. Eastern Kentucky will beat North Alabama and gets all the way to 8-4. They've really risen up here towards the end of the season. And we get a bunch of 7-5s in here as Southern Utah, ETSU, Chattanooga, Western Carolina, Southeastern Louisiana, and Lamar are all going to win their matchups next week to finish 7-5. And finally, the bottom one, Tarleton State will beat Central Arkansas. Central Arkansas just struggling here at the end of the year, and Tarleton will finish 9-3. So with that, guys, that takes us through all of next week's games that are going to matter, besides a few that we need to predict. So now we're going to get people angry, I think, here. So, Rev, if people are getting worked up in the comments, make sure you can throw them up here. We got no problems with it. And after these games all play out, this is what your auto bids would look like. The one difference here is that Drake is now your auto bid for the Pioneer. So this is what your auto bids will look like. And now it's time to predict some games that people are like, I'm not sure which way this one is going to go. So here's our format, guys. We're going to predict some games next week. And if it's red, that is Kylor. Green is NDSU. Bison for Matt. And those JMU Dukes are going to be purple. So Kylor, you are the first prediction for next week. We need this information to be able to mock the playoff bracket. Fair NDSU enough. At USD, a top 5 matchup. Who is our victor in that game next week?
South Dakota's been playing really good all year. I mean, they are a very solid team, top 4, arguably. I just don't think even at home they're going to be able to stop NDSU. NDSU just looks like they're on a different world. So I'm going to go with the Bison. They want to secure that number 1 seed.
All right. North Dakota State defeats USD next week. Could make things interesting for USD and that top 2 seed. Lehigh at Lafayette. I think Lehigh is going to go on the road, and Lafayette with a little bit of preseason praise. I think Lehigh is going to be just fine. They've been playing well here at the end of the year, and I think Lehigh is going to win to secure their auto bid. So I'm going to predict Lehigh. How did Lehigh get in the playoffs? That's an you got to way back to remember that one. So I'll take Lehigh. Jamie Williams, Montana at Montana State.
Yeah,
okay.
We've got the brawl coming up. It's pretty big. It's a big game. Big for both teams. Montana needs this game. They will be on the bubble if they lose this game. We'll talk about later if we think this again if they lose. Montana State needs this game for a top 2 seed, whether it's 1 or 2. They need this game. They lose, they're probably 4 or 5. But I think Montana State is just a more complete team. I think they're going to roll over Montana. I don't know that this game is going to be very close. I think the Bobcats win probably somewhere in the 17 to 27 point range. I just think they're going to run the ball efficiently, and I don't know that Montana can stop their run game.
Very well. All right, Bobcats, congratulations. Undefeated season for you. And Kylor, we're back on the turn here. Your Eagles came off a win last week, and they're going to play Northern Arizona. Big-time matchup, especially for how many teams could be Big Sky eligible. Who do you have for this game?
I mean, Northern Arizona's put together a pretty solid little season, and they're a bubble team right now. They definitely need this win. It is at home. I think they're undefeated at home. Unfortunately, I'm going to be biased and maybe throw some people off. Eastern Washington is coming off a phenomenal win. I think they are hyped. They did not give up like they have the last few seasons. I think there's going to be a little bit of spoiler, some big dance spoiler. I'm going with the Eags for the first time all season. I'm picking them to win.
Wow. Okay, I'll give you a little credit because it's your first time you've ever picked them to win. So you know what? If we we can cause a little bit of chaos here. So Eastern Washington gets the upset, as crazy as that sounds. Northern Arizona now firmly on the bubble, and that leaves us with Duquesne at CCSU. And this one's pretty easy. I'm not going to pick Central Connecticut. I think Duquesne's played the best ball in that league all year. I'm going to take them to absolutely win and become the auto bid. So that moves straight into SEMO at Tennessee State. And the Blue Bloods, Jamie, is our man, the Blue Bloods right here, is calling it out. So Zach McKinnell, what do you think, Jamie? SEMO at Tennessee State. This is a big matchup. Eddie George.
Yeah, I think this is a much bigger game than anybody would have anticipated quite a few weeks ago. But SEMO has kind of struggled their way through, and Tennessee State's ramped up their play. I think I'm still going to stick with and trust Paxton DeLaurent to get it done here. Zach and I'll go head-to-head on our picks here. I will take SEMO to win this game and take the auto bid out of the Big Sky OVC.
That sounds like a taco bet if I ever did hear one. So we'll have to see. Don't worry, Zach. Jamie will pay it up in Frisco. William and Mary at Richmond. All right, the CAA, Kylor. Now, Richmond is firmly safe as an auto bid. Of course, they're in seeding range. But
Right.
William and Mary, they really are going to need this victory. Who's taking this one?
Yeah, William Mary's put together a weird kind of last 7 weeks where they win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. And it's been this trajectory. It's been a pattern. So they won this last weekend, so they have to lose. I mean, patterns are there for a reason. So Richmond, they really want a high seed. They're going to do their best to just shut up William and Mary. I'm going to go with Richmond Spiders.
All right, Richmond ends it, and we'll have some seeding battle and discussion for sure of where they're going to be in the playoff field as an auto bid. Jamie, finish our games we need to predict so we can get Abilene Christian at Stephen F. Austin. This game gets interesting because Abilene Christian is obviously going to go for seeding. Again, they're already in auto bid. Stephen F. Austin on absolute life support. They're in UND range, man, in or out. Who's going to take this victory?
I might have a different thought if Sam Vidlak was going to be fully healthy and playing. But it's pretty clear that Maverick MacGyver and the rest of that Abilene Christian offense is kind of humming right now. I think they're going to go ahead, beat Stephen Austin, and state their case for a top 8 seed to get a bye. Solid, good season by Abilene Christian. Already locked up their conference. But I think they do move on past SFA and knock SFA off of whatever bubble they might have been on.
Rev, RIP to Stephen F. Austin. You going to survive this one? Are you going to be okay, buddy?
Yeah, our bubbles burst already, so not too worried about that. So it's what it is.
I'm sorry about Stephen F.A. Sorry about your wood, buddy. We still love you. All right, guys, moving forward then, we've got our games predicted, and there you go. Based off our predictions, this is what the auto bids are looking like, and we had Montana State. SEMO wins that Big South OVC. Richmond, Coastal Athletic, and DSU for the Missouri Valley. Duquesne, Lehigh Drake, Mercer, and Cardinal Word, and Abilene Christian. Those 10 teams have insured themselves into the field, boys. And now it's time for the 100-plus people who are joining us now and the others who will follow beyond us to learn a thing or two about the playoff field. So, boys, it is time now that we have 10 auto bids to select 14 at-large teams. Get the 24 teams out there, and then we're off to seeding. So here you go, the spreadsheet of data. And don't worry, I'll zoom in for you. Let me explain to the crowd who's watching this on YouTube or who's streaming with us. What you will notice on this spreadsheet is something about the ranked wins. We have ranked wins at the time identified. However, the green ones are still ranked. The red ones are no longer ranked. The ranking you will see is the ranking at the time of the matchup. And if they're red, they are not in the top 25. You will also notice that we use Jamie Williams' top 25 ideology to take teams that are currently in the top 25, like number 25 ETSU on November 17th, And we all know they won't be in the top 25 by the end of the year. So we've made those proper adjustments to reflect. We also have the Massey strength of schedule on the far right side, and we take into account non-Division I wins, FBS losses or wins, who you lost to on the FCS level, and what your overall record is. Now, a little bit of baseline, guys, here. We have some teams identified with 5 losses or more, and there's about 8 of them. We feel these are the only teams with 5 losses or more that have a remote shot to actually be in the playoff field. Besides that, shockingly enough, you only have 25 other teams that we think should be in the field. 10 of them are already taken, so it's time to get 14 more. Okay, boys. Looking at our format here, Kylor, you do get the first pick of the at-large picks. How we will do this is we can debate all we want, but the person whose pick it is gets to have the final say. So Kylor Neal, looking at the remaining field, who are you going to put in as our first at-large team and why?
Probably the easiest pick I think that's out there is Presbyterian. No, we're going to actually go with someone who, has a real shot to actually fight for the title. They are the reigning defending national championships. I got to go with the Jackrabbits, and I really don't think there's anything that you guys are going to argue. I don't think I have to defend this pick. They're the number 3 team in the nation. South Dakota State. Let me just get rid of that first at large, make it easy.
South Dakota State 10-2 in this hypothetical. They beat number 12 Incarnate Word at the time, number 4 USD, and UND when they were ranked. Their only FCS loss will come to NDSU. And they lost to FBS Oklahoma State. So South Dakota State, welcome to the playoff field as our first at-large team. And that one's pretty simple. Does it stay easy? We're about to find out. This comes to myself. I am pick number 2. And I'll just go opposite of the Missouri Valley, and I will go up to the Big Sky, the other 10-2 team. And I'm just going to go with UC Davis. To me, that's pretty simple. In the hypothetical, they won the last week of the season. They got 2 ranked wins at the time, number 4 Idaho and number 7 Montana. Those teams are also still ranked. And their Massey strength of schedule, 16th in the nation, only losing to Montana State, which what turned out to be a very close game. And they have 1 FBS loss, and they played a full FCS slate. So I think that's an easy call. Gentlemen, any pushback on the call of the Aggies of UC Davis?
I think that's as good of a lock.
All right, easy money. All right, Jamie, maybe it gets difficult. I doubt it. Who are we looking at for our third at-large team to put into the field here?
No, I think let's stay simple, and I'm going to stay in the Big Sky and just easily drop in the Idaho Vandals. Obviously, that Albany win hasn't really aged well, but Abilene Christian win from early in the year looks a whole lot better. They did take a couple of losses, but Idaho's played well. Jacqueline is back. I think they're going to be a little bit more dangerous than people are thinking right now. They've kind of gone away and hidden for the last few weeks. Idaho Vandals in the playoffs.
Yeah, they have 9 wins, and that's because they have a win over FBS Wyoming. So there's an FBS win to throw onto Idaho's resume. People are looking at 3 losses. Well, those losses come to UC Davis, Montana State, and I don't know, the best team in the country, Oregon, which was a close game. Combine that with, like you said, Jamie, 3 ranked wins, 2 that are looking pretty good right now. NAU, at the end of the year, would still technically be ranked if they won this week. So
let me just interject something real quick. We understand that the committee is not theoretically using either the coaches or the stats poll as one of their metrics, but they will understand what quality wins are, and we're going to use that to determine our quality wins here, just because that's a data point that's out there, because they won't give us the ESPN FPI. The KPI is garbage. So that's kind of how we're going to use this. So we understand what the committee is using. We're using this as our FPI. It's going to be pretty close.
Yep, that's a really good status there. Is that we're using these as just like, hey, these teams are clearly pretty good. So, and I don't think at this point the screaming has to start yet from fans, even though we love the engagement. Is anyone disagreeing on UC Davis, Idaho, or South Dakota State?
No,
I don't think so. But maybe they'll disagree on Kylor's 4th pick. Kylor, who are we putting in the field right now with SDSU, UC Davis, and Idaho?
I mean, we're going to take it all the way to the East Coast, get that Joe DeLeon team out there. Rhode Island, it's going to be really hard to turn down a 10-win CAA team. And when you look at their only 2 losses right now, it's transitioning Delaware and then Minnesota, right? That's one hell of a rebounding season from Rhode Island. I don't think we expected them to be a 10-win team, and here they are. You just can't sit out a 10-win CAA team. It makes no sense to. So, yeah, Rhode Island, easy at large.
And New Hampshire has actually rebounded. It's possible New Hampshire maybe sniffs the top 25, or they're starting to receive votes. And in our hypothetical, they finish 8-4. So that's a pretty good win. But you're right, 10 wins, and combine that with basically 2 FBS losses if you count Delaware. So Rhode Island would not have thought they'd be the 4th team that we'd be typing here. But hey, no pushback for me on that one. Okay, so now looking down our line. I mean, you know what? Just to make it fun, instead of South Dakota, I'll go with a team. I'll go with Illinois State. You want to know why I'll choose them instead of South Dakota, unless you guys have any pushback? Is because they have one more win. So, and they each had a ranked win at the time against Southern Illinois, which is junk now. South Dakota lost to the South SDSU and NDSU. The Missouri State loss is bad, but again, that's a transitioning team technically. 23rd overall in terms of strength of schedule, and they had an FBS loss in there as well. So FBS loss, transitioning Missouri State, got blown out by NDSU. Any pushback there on the Redbirds? Kylor Neal and Jamie Williams.
No, I mean, we've seen 6 win on an 11-week schedule of Missouri Valley teams getting in with 6 wins. Missouri Valley, they kind of deserve it. And if you have a 9-win Missouri Valley team, I mean, just where do we sign the paper?
Yep, book them. So I think my takeaway was, as I built this and taking a quick pause breath here, was I don't know how difficult this is going to be. I really got to a point where I was like, man, we might fly through this podcast a lot quicker than we realize. All right, Jamie Williams, number 6. Who's our next team entering the conversation here? We getting down into this territory, or are we staying up top?
We're still going to stay up with 9 and 10 win teams. Maybe we're going to go with an 8-win team. It's just, Kevin's been saying it. There's quite a few teams that really don't have a lot of quality wins. There's not a lot of quality wins across the country, really, if you think about it. But that's what we're dealing with. These are the records we have to deal with. The CAA, they tried to top load their schedule for the teams they thought were going to be good and give them the bottom feeders. Smart by them, I guess, if they're thinking about the conference. But I'm gonna go back to the Missouri Valley. I'm gonna go ahead and put South Dakota in. We can talk about whether they deserve a seed in a little while, top 8 seed, anyways. They really don't have anything of a quality win. They lost to both the Dakota States, but I think that's a really good football team. So I'm gonna go ahead and put South Dakota in.
Strength of schedule 9th, according to Matt. See, this would be at the time of November 17th. That strength of schedule is probably going to rise when they play number 1 North Dakota State. So you're talking possibly like a top 6, top 5 strength of schedule, holding Wisconsin, FBS Wisconsin pretty well defensively. And just couldn't overcome who most people would say could be the best, a possible Frisco matchup. I don't have any pushback, Kylor. You good with the Yotes going in there as our at-large?
I'm good with the Yotes.
Awesome. All right. Well, since Jamie got them, Kylor, lucky number 7. It's your pick, my man. What do you got?
Let's see here. I think it's going to be really hard to turn down Tarleton right now. I get, we thought just a few weeks ago it was pretty much a shoo-in for them to win their conference and get the, at large or maybe a top 8 seed. And now they've had a few losses. But right now, I mean, there's very few teams that have 9 wins at the end of this season, right? And it's going to be hard to turn down a Tarleton when there's quite a bit of other teams this last week that just lost and kind of threw themselves on the last 4 in, last 4 out type of bubble. So I think Tarleton's safe as long as they get that win this next week.
Can I just ask a future question within our current selection? If we put Tarleton in, that's 2 UAC teams. Obviously, they have an auto bid. Are we going to get to a point where we have to be worried about Eastern Kentucky being one of the last ones in? Because if we were in a situation of Tarleton, Eastern Kentucky for like the last 2 in, I might pound the table for Eastern Kentucky getting that win over Tarleton State. Now, I'm not saying I feel like we might put ourselves in a corner here putting Tarleton in now, because I don't know how we would discount Eastern Kentucky. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like that would be my concern.
I mean, at the end of the day, we'll see if we're going to put in Eastern Kentucky or not. But I think Eastern Kentucky has a worse loss. I think that Southern Utah loss doesn't look too great. And we're talking about Eastern Kentucky being on the bubble right now, right? you're just saying, hey, I should put Eastern Kentucky over Tarleton because they just won, and that's a fair argument. But they're going to have one more win, and their losses are Abilene Christian and Eastern Kentucky. Those are two better losses. So,
yeah, but they got the head. Southern Utah is not terrible.
I think the head-to-head
I
makes
don't know.
sense when it's the same record. When it's one more loss, that head-to-head's not as important.
Okay. All right. Jamie, you good with Tarleton State?
Yeah, I think Tarleton's going to be in, and I don't think it's going to be that much of a debate for them. I think they've played good football overall. They've definitely escaped a few times. I mean, they escaped Southeastern Louisiana. We all know they escaped Southern Utah. I was there on the sideline. I saw the fumble from 60 freaking yards away. But hey, you still have to win your games. You can't miss your extra point when you score. So Tarleton earned that win, but they've definitely played with a lot of fire, and they got burned yesterday. So I think they're in. I don't know how competitive they're going to be when they have to go on the road and face up with somebody, but they're a playoff team. I don't have any problem putting them in.
And we're not concerned at all. Like, I mean, SoCon right here, you see Mercer sitting there. I guess probably not. You have a bunch of 5-loss SoCon teams whose strength of schedules range from 42nd, 24th to 30th. Where there's UAC teams, you have a 49th and a 40th strength of schedule for Massey. Not concerned at all, or it's about winning games. Don't care?
Well, Mercer's already in, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, just saying, SoCon right now could get major shaft here.
I think we'll find out when we start getting down the list. I think the SoCon, unfortunately, is going to be pretty upset. Kevin's going to be pretty upset.
All right. Very cool. Just I'm playing a little devil's advocate. I want to poke the bear a little bit as we go through, just because about future concerns. There's probably one commissioner in there on the committee that everybody just can't stand. I'll just play his role. So, this guy can shut up.
Probably Matt Larson anyway. So,
oh, Matt, great first name, by the way.
Is a good guy. I do like
absolutely. Matt. All right. Here we go. I think I'm going to keep it easy. I don't know how we keep the Grizz out. The Grizz have the win over NAU. They have the win over Western Carolina. Western Carolina win doesn't look phenomenal right now. Their losses come to UC Davis and Montana State. I don't really care about those because they're high-quality teams. UND, Weber State, not phenomenal. But if I'm going to stack Montana up, I'm going to look a little bit at one detail. 35th strength of schedule, and I can see some of these teams 73, 56, 57, just go down the line. Do you guys feel like Montana should be held off anymore, or are we looking at the Grizz getting into the playoff field? You can convince me out of it. I'm fine.
It's going to be hard to, again, keep an 8-win Big Sky team out of the playoffs. Their resume is not very impressive by any means. So it is weird. The bigger question is, do they go on the road? All right. Maybe a last 4 team in. Do they go on the road? I doubt it. Walgreens is going to get a playoff game. But that's what I would like to see.
Is the
Montana
seeding
going on the road. Yeah. So,
right.
No, but I say they're a solid at-large.
Jamie, you think they're a lock, the Grizz?
A lock?
I can be talked out of it. I'm the guy who can be talked out of it.
I think they're probably in. I mean, like Kylor said, an 8-win, and all their wins, I believe, are D1 wins. 8 wins, yeah. I'm not going to fight you that hard on it. They're going to be in. They've got a couple of nice quality wins. I mean, yeah, the 2 are to the back. State. Yeah, and then Missouri State looks good for them. I'd leave it.
Missouri State? Okay. All right.
Yeah, they beat Missouri State. That's a good win. That's a better win than people think it is. So
okay, very well. All right, we'll go with Montana. Then as the 8th team that hits the at-larges. And number 9, Jamie. And then we're going to get the Rev in here to make pick number 10. Okay, now things are starting to get interesting. What do you got?
Yeah, we're starting to get a little tight. We've got to come back east, and we're going to all have to kind of hold our nose and suck it up and start talking about a bunch of CAA teams getting into playoffs. However, I'm going to highlight the guy that should be the Eddie Robinson Award winner, Billy Kosh, from, I believe, 1 or no wins last year to 9-3 this year. Stony Brook makes the playoffs.
Stony Brook. And the William & Mary win, looking pretty solid. So we predict they are going to stay into the rankings next week. losing to Villanova and New Hampshire. And honestly,
Yeah, that
Villanova
game
and New
yesterday
Hampshire
really hurts. That game against New Hampshire really hurts. They were up
1
Yeah.
point loss.
and gave up
Ouch.
21 straight points late. That'll hurt them, but I think they still have enough to get in.
And Stony Brook comes in on that 56 strength of schedule, 57 sitting there for Villanova. And then New Hampshire, of course, had to play basically everybody there at 8-4. So I don't have any problems with Stony Brook getting in, especially with the 9 wins. And none of them were non-D1 victories. So I like Stony Brook to have that in there. Kylor, any pushback?
No, I that was going to be my next pick anyway. So, Jamie, I will not give you any flack. It's going to, like I said, it's going to be hard to take a 9-win CA team, Big Sky, whatever, out of the playoffs.
Okay, Rev, here are your at-large teams right now. South Dakota State, UC Davis, Idaho, Rhode Island, Illinois State, South Dakota, Tarleton State, Montana, and Stony Brook. 9 teams in, 5 spots remain. You are our comment czar, our good friend, and the famous bunny. So you get pick number 10, my man. And I got to say, I think things start to get interesting now. In terms of teams that don't have 5 losses, for those not watching on YouTube, you're talking about 2 Big South OVC teams, 2 CA teams, a MEAC squad, and UAC Eastern Kentucky. Below that, you start getting into 5-loss territory. So what do you got, Rev? Who is on your radar?
Man, I was hoping nobody would see Stony Brook and I could just slid that one in because that was something. But I think, honestly, if you're going to put in a 9-win Stony Brook, you're going to put in one of the 8-win CAA teams as well, just because of the recency bias to the conference versus anything else. And so I think it comes down to, I honestly think if they went out, New Hampshire is going to squeeze in into the playoffs. They may not be a seeded, or they may be in as 23 or 24, but I think they're going to sneak in, especially with the way they've been playing the back half of the season. So that would be my pick. You could also throw Villanova in there too, but it's going to be one of those two is going to get in. But I think it's New Hampshire.
Yeah, and Harvard, who they did lose to, remember, is number 1 in the Ivy League.
Yeah.
They're number 1 in the Ivy League. And I know quality losses shouldn't be the first thing we think of. But the only thing I see for Villanova that they really have going for them over New Hampshire is that Delaware is the transitioning team, and Delaware beat them, right?
Yeah.
Besides that, and if you want to comp Harvard and Delaware to the same thing, I'd be willing to listen to that argument. The reality is that, I guess, the head-to-head too. New Hampshire did end up losing to Villanova. So do we weigh that at all? Or we good with the Wildcats? What do you think, Jamie?
Wildcats or Wildcats? I feel like I see it because of the strength of schedule. But if we're debating these two right now, I think Villanova gets in before New Hampshire. But I also think that New Hampshire has the better win, which is the Stony Brook win yesterday, the comeback.
But head-to-head, they do think
head-to-head. That head-to-head is really giving me pause there, and it was just a dog crap 14-6 game.
Yeah.
I would probably they're both gonna be 8-4. It's a good resume. They're even resumes. So do we go with the head-to-head or do we go with the stronger strength of schedule for New Hampshire? I think I would go Villanova first, but it's Rev's pick. He can make the final decision.
I honestly think
I mean, this is what the committee will face. This is why people watch this show. Not to be perfect, but this is what you have to think about. What do you care about? Rev, response, what do you got?
I mean, I honestly think they're both getting in, right? I think it's just a matter of if or when they get picked in the list, because I think
and we're not seeding right now. We're not
seeding right now. So I think they're both getting in. So I could, if I took Nova now, I could see somebody taking New Hampshire in 3 spots. So I'm keeping in New Hampshire because I think they're going to get in with where they're at. But I also could see Villanova. I mean, I think Villanova is going to get in as well. So I don't think it's any sort of slight to not have Nova in right now.
Okay. And yes, this is not seeding just because New Hampshire's coming here for Rev. This stuff is irrelevant over here. Just think of this as the coaches poll. It doesn't matter. It's not real. Nobody cares. That being said, moving on to pick number 11 is Jamie Williams. Final 4, Jamie. These are your final 4 teams in the playoffs. You have Tennessee State, UT Martin, Villanova, NC Central, and Eastern Kentucky that don't have 5 losses. Not a lot of teams. Do you want to dip into 5-loss territory, or are we staying up?
No, we're gonna stay up. We're gonna stay up. I'm just gonna go ahead and just put Villanova in. I don't think they're very good. I think they're just a team that just have been a product of the schedule that they've been able to play. I don't think they're going to go anywhere, but I think they're going to get in.
Villanova, any pushback? Kylor Neal.
I mean, this is the CA does not deserve 5 teams at the end of the day, right? They really don't deserve 5 teams.
No.
The fact is they're going to get 5 teams. If you're putting in New Hampshire, you got to put in Villanova. They have that head-to-head. The resume is similar. Their wins and losses are identical. And unfortunately, the Missouri Valley and kind of Big Sky shot themselves in the foot with maybe that 5th team. So, yeah, I actually think even though they don't deserve 5 teams, it's going to be hard not to put a 5th CAA team in, even though I think most of the CAA teams will get dog-walked in the playoffs. Again, it's just going to be hard to keep Villanova out of the playoffs when so many of the bubble teams lost the last few weeks. So, CA gets their 5th team.
Yeah, I think this is I like the comments here by Mr. Harris. I see Ron. I think if our Eastern Washington prediction goes opposite, I think this is easy NAU territory, right?
Yeah.
But for now, Villanova, bring them into the field. A true football school. That's all they love at Villanova. They're like Kylor Neal. They only love football, no basketball. Okay, that brings me to number 12. And golly, Tennessee State, 8-4. UT Martin, 8-4. I do not like the looks of either of those teams' resumes. UT Martin does have an FBS win. They're both 8-4. NC Central, no ranked wins. 94th strength of schedule. I do not like that whatsoever. I mean, I don't know how with Tarleton State in the field you wouldn't put Eastern Kentucky in. Is putting 3 UAC teams in blasphemy? Is that crazy? Or is this conference better than we thought it was? This is what I want to discuss over some of these 7-5 SoCons and others. Because I'm not sold on who I should put in here. What do you think?
I like Eastern Kentucky for this pick. And, the UAC is not this powerhouse of a conference, but they also don't have a lot of really shitty teams. Excuse my language. Their resume, they have 2 big wins, right? People were thinking Central Arkansas, especially at the beginning of the year. We were there when they were playing lights out. We thought, they were a shoo-in for potentially a top 10 seed, a top 8 seed. Eastern Kentucky, they beat Tarleton. So it's in their loss, ACU, and then Southern Utah. Again, too many teams lost. In the UAC, what's their strength of schedule right now, Matt? If you can scroll over a little bit.
The strength of schedule for the UAC is good. 40. I mean, it's not great, but like 40th is not too bad.
No. And
they have a quality win over Tarleton State. Now, when you get the 5 losses and below, let's just see if there's anyone that you would even think about for strength of schedule, if you can entertain me. 25th strength of schedule, Northern Arizona. 24th strength of schedule, Chattanooga. And then you have some in the 30s here, Western Carolina, Southeastern Louisiana. But is that enough of a stretch from 40? Probably not. 15, 16 spots for less wins? I would say no. So Jamie, what do you think? I'm feeling Eastern Kentucky. That's where I want to lean.
Yeah, I think Eastern Kentucky's in. They lost to Abilene Christian. They lost to Southern Utah. Southern Utah, they're a solid team. I think if we started talking about Northern Arizona, we'd have to talk about Southern Utah because Southern Utah's resume is better than Northern Arizona. Kylor disagrees, but it is. They've got. Look at the 2 resumes. Like Northern Arizona's ranked win is Sac State, who just lost to Cal Poly. And I know Southern Utah is Central Arkansas, so Southern Utah beat Eastern Kentucky. So
can't lose to a team that gave up 77 to Eastern.
You can't. That Idaho State loss is terrible. They also have an FBS win. I'm not putting.
You like your coach too much.
I do.
And I'm not putting your FCS program.
I'm just talking through some of these 7-5 teams. I think Eastern Kentucky punched the ticket. I really do. Yeah. I think they're good. I'm not sure that I agree with Rev that if Eastern Kentucky's in, that Southern Utah needs to be, because Eastern Kentucky does have that extra win. And they have the better win. The Tarleton State win is a really, really good win. And they beat Central Arkansas while they were still healthy. I think they might have. Shundera Powell was still hobbled, but McElvain got hurt in that game, so maybe they weren't quite as healthy. But I think Eastern Kentucky has finished the season strong, and that's also part of what you look at is how people are playing now. I agree with the Eastern Kentucky.
I'm going to put Eastern Kentucky in there at the 12th spot. And for those of you that we're sorry to make the sacrificial lamb be Northern Arizona, NAU. But of these teams like Villanova, New Hampshire, others where we were just like, they're definitely winning next week, some team or two is going to get upset. So I'm glad we have a bunch of 7 and 5 to at least have this discussion, to realize that it's going to get to this point where 7 and 5 is going to be on the table. So, okay. We have 2 spots left. Kylor, you're unlucky number 13. Jamie, you're at 14. Here's what our field looks like right now. And starting at the top, teams with less than 5 losses, if you value that, all that remains: Tennessee State, UT Martin, NC Central, North Carolina Central. That's it. Those are your 3 teams that you put in. Otherwise, we're in 5-loss territory. What are you thinking, Kylor? Where's your gut?
I think we should stop the playoffs about 5 teams ago, to be honest.
Also true.
You're just looking at this and this playoff field is disgusting. And this is going to make it hard. I really don't like anyone in the Big South OVC. I mean, you can make an argument, I guess, for UT Martin, maybe even Tennessee.
That's what I was going to go with.
But I don't like that. NC Central is just, again, we saw what they did with a better resume last year. I do think that kind of hangs on the committee's heads. That Elon loss is not looking good. Now, I do think, if I picked NAU over Eastern, that is a different discussion, and they are probably in. I know Jamie and I disagree wholeheartedly because I think his argument is retarded, and he thinks mine is too. So at the end of the day, it's one of those things where him and I will disagree from time to time. And if NAU beats Eastern, I think they're probably in. It would be hard to get rid of an 8-win Big Sky team. It is just
7 wins.
So
they'd be at 7.
For D1,
7 D1 wins, so that matters.
They'd have 1 less D1 loss, and they didn't lose to Idaho State. So you can't lose Idaho State and even have a football program. So sorry, Coach. I know we love you on the show, but Jamie's being biased right now. But I picked bias Eastern, so I don't care. NAU's out. But man, this is where it's hard. And Kevin put up a comment that said, none of us have a SoCon champion, and it shows. Either does a SoCon since the powers left. The SoCon hasn't won a game, looked competitive outside of a few games in the postseason. So, Kevin, you suck too. But at the end of the day, I do want to put in a SoCon team. I think too many bubble teams left. And, man, it's hard to pick a SoCon team. But I still value maybe a 7-win SoCon team over an 8-win Big South team, right? So I got to go with a SoCon team. I'm just trying to drain it down. And you're probably going to have to go with, gosh, I don't know what the head-to-head wins are going to be, but I'm going to say you're probably going to have to go with, Chattanooga.
You're really over UT Martin right now?
There's one more spot left.
Well, I'm pissed off because I had Chattanooga on a tee ready.
I was going to say, I think it's going to be really hard to, give the UAC 3, give maybe the Big South 2, give the CA 5, and you're leaving it with one SoCon team. That doesn't make any sense.
FBS win, only lost to Missouri State and SEMO.
Yeah, but I didn't pick ETSU. I picked Chattanooga. So that loss, it is what it is. So I think Chattanooga sneaks in. We're going to put the Mocs.
Chattanooga's strength of schedule 24th and 2 FBS losses. So end of the day, beating ETSU. There's no quality wins that are left here anyways, but their strength of schedule and the KPI might give
FCS losses doesn't look that bad in the grand scheme of things.
All right. Chattanooga enters the field. Will that be the head scratcher? Will they be the one people go, what the flip? There's always one, right?
Well, it's the same team that I had the visceral reaction with on the selection show last year, if you remember.
Yeah, that's right.
They got in late. I know Western Carolina, I think, beat them. I think Western Carolina won that game, but I don't think it's going. I think Chattanooga, they're finishing 7-2 after an 0-3 start, and they started FBS loss, lost to the team that won their conference. I think I would pick Chattanooga as well.
Very cool. Well, Yeah.
That's 100% the difference. That's the only reason.
Kevin
So
Marshall,
Kevin, you're
chat
right.
winning at the General is the difference. Everyone knows it's impossible.
I love
What
it.
is impossible might be picking the last pick, and that is you, Jamie. And since you don't have Chattanooga, it comes down to you. Let's do something fun for this one, just like the seeds. Let's do our final pitches, and then Jamie, you can make the call. My pitch is UT Martin again. I don't know. FBS win. I know it's Kennesaw State, but it's FBS win. Lost to SEMO, who's in the field. Missouri State, who's considered FBS transition. Tennessee Tech, yes, that's a bad loss. Beat ETSU at the time, and ETSU still will be right on that edge of at least in-out. And their strength of schedule, UT Martin, 48th. That's top 50. There's some of these CAA teams who are in the mid-50s. So my call is UT Martin. Kylor, final pitch, and then Jamie will make the call.
Scroll down again. Man, I'm leaning towards Southern Utah. Said no one ever. No, Jamie. Man, I think you're probably right. Again, I think I threw everyone for a loop with that NAU loss. I mean, Southern Louisiana. I mean, when you look at their losses, those are pretty good losses, but they don't have any good wins. What's their strength of schedule? Because that's not a very good team.
33.
Either. 33. So it's better than some. But man, I don't think Southeastern Louisiana is very good. I saw them in person.
25th strength of schedule for Northern Arizona.
Yeah. I plead the fifth.
Jamie, what do you got?
Matt, bring the Rev in. I want to hear his thoughts.
Rev,
He's not getting off that easy.
Final team in, Rev. Who do you think?
It's not Southeastern Louisiana because they are the champion of the almost. Had they beat Tarleton State, then maybe. It's not Southern Utah as much as I want it to be Southern Utah because I think Southern Utah should have another win. But we all know that if they had invested in a pylon cam, they would have gotten that win. So Coach Fitzgerald needs to spend some more money. I'm with Matt, actually.
Thank you, Rev.
I'm 100% with Matt. That would be my. I'm with him. That'd be my pick.
So I guess we have Villanova, who is 8-4, beat Youngstown State. Their strength of schedule is 57th. They get to just get in over 8-4 FBS win. UT Martin, who lost to Missouri State, SEMO, 48th strength of schedule. That's a better team on paper. That's a better team. Is UT Martin. That's my final pitch. What do you got, Jamie?
Yeah, I was going UT Martin the whole time.
Yeah.
I was thinking that Kylor was going to go UT Martin so then I could swoop in with this nice statement about Chattanooga and talk through how they, deserve to be in there at the end. See, I've been watching the chat too. I think Chris or Brian, one of those two, somebody loses some tacos there because they swore I was going to go with SUU. And while I do, Coach and I are friends, and I went out there and I like that team. We're going to be objective here. And as much as they have a great shot to be on the bubble with the win that they're going to get. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you vote, Targi Lamson is going to lead this country in rushing yards by a wide margin. Put him on your Peyton ballot. Doesn't have to be 1-2, but put him on there. So Targi's a hell of a running back, and with the way that team is constructed, without him, they might not have a win.
Listen to one of the top voters in the country right there, ladies and gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, we are here with the full 24 teams in the mock playoff bracket special. Autobids, Montana State, SEMO, Richmond, NDSU, Duquesne, Lehigh, Drake, Mercer, Incarnate Word, and Abilene Christian. Our at-large teams, South Dakota State, UC Davis, Idaho, Rhode Island, Illinois State, South Dakota, Tarleton, Montana, Stony Brook, New Hampshire, Villanova, Eastern Kentucky, Chattanooga, and UT Martin. We will answer.
All right, does anybody have any argument to put anybody in over any of these teams? Because I can't make one.
No, I think
Rev?
you could. No.
If Northern Arizona beats Eastern Washington, then they need to be in. But that's the only one, and you guys have already touched on that one.
Yeah,
would you drop out for that?
Chattanooga? You've already. I would put them in over Chattanooga.
Yep, that'd be my call too. But let's stay on the hypotheticals now, and we will discuss kind of additional questions as Jamie builds the bracket on the back end, so we can have our fans know who's going to be the top 16 seed teams. So this is important now. These at-large options, we're going to need to know resume, and we're going to start here with the big one. This is certainly going to be debated left and right. And Kylor, you are the one who gets to make the pick. Who is our number 1 seed in the playoffs of this field?
We've been so accurate with the seedings, but now it's double the seedings. This makes it extremely fun, and I think we're going to have some big hits and some big misses. But the number 1 seed's easy. North Dakota State by a mile. Some people are going to argue for Montana State because they went undefeated. It's just not going to be. North Dakota State, as long as they win against South Dakota this next week, they are your 1 seed.
So North Dakota State is strength of schedule is your main argument there. We have Montana State beating,
and they beat the other 2 of the 4 best teams outside of them.
All right. Well, then we will move in North Dakota State at the 1 seed. And yes, almost intentionally, I put myself as the 2nd seed pick, which of course is it has to be a Missouri Valley team who is runner-up, so we have to go with the Jet. No, we're going with the undefeated team. Big Sky, Montana State, who would finish 12-0, would have an FBS close victory, but they got it. And they would finish with 3 ranked wins, ranked at the time in the top 25. Number 7, Idaho, number 4, UC Davis, number 9, Montana, all 3 who are playoff teams. They have no FCS losses. A strength of schedule of 22nd, which seems to will rise after they play Montana. So I have Montana State as easy as the 2 seed. No debate there, gentlemen. Pretty simple.
Yeah, straightforward.
I think it's extremely simple.
Easy enough. All right, let's see if it stays simple. Jamie Williams, number 3. Who is our seed here?
Yeah, I mean, it stays pretty simple right here. We could start debating after this. South Dakota State is the number 3 seed.
All right, SDSU and South Dakota State only losing to North Dakota State. They also have quality wins over Incarnate Word and South Dakota, and beating North Dakota at the time, only losing to North Dakota State, Oklahoma State. So South Dakota State, the 3. Welcome to Bozeman if you reach the semis, and so do the Bobcats. All right, we get interesting now a little bit because South Dakota has lost in this hypothetical, and now it's time to go around the bend. Kylor, you get the pick at number 4 where things are going to get interesting. We might need a little debate.
Because we think South Dakota is going to lose to North Dakota State, I don't really think there's even much of a debate on this one. UC Davis at number 4, they are a 2-point conversion away from, potentially beating Montana State. That'd be their only FCS loss. I mean, they beat Idaho. That's a strong resume builder right now because Idaho is probably going to be a top 8 seed. So I think it'd be hard to turn UC Davis away from that 4 seed with that hypothetical of South Dakota, losing to the Bison. Now, if South Dakota wins against the Bison, that's a whole different discussion, but we think the Bison's going to win. So I think you got to put UC Davis as a 4.
And UC Davis with 1 FCS loss, that is huge. The only other team that's close to that is SEMO, who does not have the resume of 2 playoff teams that they've beaten, along with 2 that are likely to be probably 12 seeds. What?
And Rhode Island, they only have in Richmond.
Rhode Island, but
loss.
The quality is not there. UC Davis, even in a loss, showed what they had, and I think that's a good pick at number 4.
Jamie arguments?
Yeah, Davis is 4. Especially the way they closed that game last night. They were just a mistake away from Miles Hastings with getting that game tied. Also, Peyton voters, don't forget about Miles Hastings and Blaine Larison too. So he has to consider. I'm going to start pumping people out here and there. I mentioned Paxton DeLauren earlier. It's going to be tough to fill those ballots for us Peyton voters.
Yes, it will, my man. Okay, number 5 is where it gets interesting, right? Here's where we get curious.
Yep.
Dang it. I shouldn't have put my name here. That was dumb. You're supposed to be the host. Okay. I know this is where everybody under the sun has put South Dakota, right? This is what everybody's done. But if South Dakota loses to NDSU, as good as you think they are, like, what, non-D1 wins? They've got one of those. They had that forfeited game. Their quality win is
Canceled
Southern
game.
Illinois. A canceled game? Like, that stinks. Is an 8-3 Missouri Valley team the 5 seed here? I don't think they are. I don't think if they lose to North Dakota State, they're the 5 seed. So now I need a little bit of help. I'm going to be completely honest with you. My gut tells me to look at like the CAA champion like Richmond or somewhere in that realm. We saw how the committee viewed SEMO last time, but that was before their loss to Lindenwood. I need some help here. What do we think? 5 seed.
I think you only have 2 options. And maybe Jamie, maybe him and I are on some wavelength. I think you got to look at Richmond or Mercer. I think those are really your 2 options for
Mercer.
this. Because what? Mercer, of course, Alabama loss, who cares, right? You're going to lose. And they actually didn't lose by 60, so that's promising. The Sanford loss sucks. That's where you kind of look at it and go, all right, South Dakota at least has much better losses than Mercer. But Mercer with 10 wins, right? That's what we're predicting. 10 wins, 1 FCS loss. They ran through the SoCon. I mean,
Kylor,
resume,
you made it easy for me, Kylor. Sorry to interrupt you, man, but like, thank you for pointing them out, because that's 10 wins. They're not ranked anymore, but at the time, 4 ranked wins at the time. Loss to Alabama is one of those losses. And strength of schedule. Here you go. You ready? Mercer strength of schedule 58th. And I was thinking like SEMO Richmond. SEMO 77th, Richmond 73rd. And if you want to talk South Dakota strength of schedule, yeah, it's 9th. That's great. But 8-3, 10-2, I'm going to go with Mercer. I want to go Mercer. Jamie, do you have any pushes against that, my man?
Nope, that would have been my answer if you gave me the 5 seed. I think it's Mercer, and I know their strength of schedule is what it is, but they've played a real quality, and that defense will play just about anywhere.
There you go. And if you want to talk defense in this, then South Dakota and Mercer, maybe you'll see each other in the playoffs, and you can figure
a healthy
it out there.
DJ Smith, given DJ Smith a week to get healthy, they're going to be a problem for somebody.
Very cool. Okay, pressure's off me. It's on you, Jamie. Number 6.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about a team that hasn't been brought up yet here. Well, and then you just put up Patrick's comment.
Yeah,
Idaho's the 6.
Actually,
I think Idaho's the 6. You could make they were the other team I was thinking you could make the argument for 5, but I'm going to go with Idaho as the 6. I think their strength of schedule, their quality wins. I think, what is their strength of schedule? It's like 4, isn't it?
They were competitive with Oregon, which is pretty wild. The undefeated FBS team.
Yeah, I mean, I could have made the argument for them at 5.
I'd make that flip. I didn't even think of Idaho. I'd make that flip,
and we probably should, because also 2 of their losses are. Yeah, didn't they play 2? They have the FBS Davis, too. So that helps.
UC Davis and Montana State and a number 4 strength of schedule. Listen, this isn't a perfect science. Welcome to the committee. I say we flip it. I say Idaho goes up and then you go Mercer. But Jamie, if you don't want to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not worried about creating, rematches or conference matchups in the quarters.
I think that's probably what we have to do, to be honest.
I think you got it.
FBS win as well.
Yeah, I think just the body of work for Idaho is a little bit better. But then Mercer's the 6th, and just book it.
Yep. I think that's a good call. I apologize for missing that. See, I didn't do my job as the 5, but
I should have popped up like I should have piped in like I thought.
Yep, got to flip. Hey, hopefully they have these discussions in the committee room, because honestly, I think Idaho is more than deserving of it above it. So I'm glad we caught that one. Kylor, hopefully don't expose anything else, but let's move on to number 7 then. Who do we have for our 7th seed?
Yeah, this is where it's going to get kind of weird. Because you do have teams that were already in their top 10 and didn't lose, right? Like, I know Andrew Markham just put him up there. Incarnate Word. I personally just don't think Incarnate Word is a top 8 team. Sorry, Andrew Markham. They don't have any really good wins on their resume. I really don't think so. I think the Southland kind of sucks. You kind of got exposed by it. Was a healthy Southern Illinois, which is a completely different team, but now that loss looks bad. And South Dakota State ran through you like it was butter. But when the committee already had him up there, are we playing predictive or are we thinking what we want? I always have that issue.
We got to be like for the committee. We're trying to
Like
predict
we're
it
the
one
committee,
day.
resume committee. Yeah, SEMO's there. Incarnate Word's definitely in there.
That Wofford loss is pathetic too, and they have no wins on Richmond, no good wins.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm kind of like, I get it. You're the CA champ. You only have one FCS loss, but
How about
resume.
how about Abilene Christian at all? Lost to Idaho, North Alabama.
No, that North Alabama took them out of an 8 seed.
Okay,
That
32nd
was
strength of schedule.
Man.
How about our at-larges? Got at-large teams here.
No, I don't like any of them.
Dude, the comments are riddled with 17 different opinions right now.
Would it? I mean, let me. I get it. They beat Delaware. That's true. I was gonna say, Jamie, would it be wild if they had Rhode Island above Richmond, even though Richmond won the auto?
Yeah, I think it would be. I think Richmond, the quality of Richmond's.
Then I think I'm going to have to stick with a Richmond, even over an Incarnate Word or an Abilene Christian, to get one of those top seeds. I think Mr. Kevin Marshall with that Delaware. Yeah, it's just that Wofford loss. I think if you're a top 8 team, you don't lose to bums. So that's where it's like, ugh.
Yeah,
you don't have to feel that, Matt. I've got it.
You got it, buddy. Okay.
Yeah, Jamie's working on it.
Richmond number 7, and that gives us to the final seed, the A seed. Just kidding. We have 16 this year, but this is normally where we would be done, and that comes back to me. Oh man.
Well, this is the last team that gets a bye and does not have to play Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, this is huge. This is the bye week. Great. Oh man, I don't want to be on the committee. This is why I don't vote. People are like, "Will you be in my poll?" I'm like, "No." I will not. I don't like this pressure. I want to just make intro videos and sit on my podcast. Okay, at-large options.
I mean, here, we can brainstorm, Matt, because, again, it's going to be your pick. Incarnate Word's probably going to be sniffing around that top 8, right? Sniffing it. And I think South Dakota, even with that loss, those losses are to all phenomenal title contending teams. I get that Portland State game didn't happen, but even the Portland State football players would have told you, they beat us. It didn't show up on the scoreboard. So, I mean, and the strength of schedule is huge. And the committee has really valued teams who are going out and playing everyone.
I'm concerned about the Northern State or whatever the hell they played week 1.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's not going to look good for them, because can a 7 Division 1 team get a seed? Everybody's going to scream for South Dakota, and it's probably going to happen just because of who they've lost to. But eventually you have to beat somebody good or somebody at least ranked. Right. And I know they played great against South Dakota State and should have won that game, but we can't pick on should have. I think South Dakota is probably the answer, but you got to kind of.
I mean, are we leaving also just Illinois State?
9-3, but
because here's kind of my thought process, and I get it. It's a different Southern Illinois team, but if the committee's looking at, all right, here's at least a common opponent you guys played, Incarnate Word. Well, you lost to Southern Illinois. Illinois State and South Dakota both beat Southern Illinois. I think South Dakota, and the committee has done this in the past, where they go, we're going to view it on, sometimes it's not even resume, it's who we feel like is the best, especially after the showing they had. I think South Dakota's probably going to get this.
They're definitely, by the eye test, they are the better team of the options. It would just be funny because they win that first game and then they go right back and play North Dakota State again, which I don't think matters, because I think that's exactly what happened last year.
Yeah.
I think that if South Dakota drops to that 8-3, I don't think Incarnate Word goes below them. And I think why Incarnate Word doesn't go below them is October 30th, Incarnate Word. South Dakota, of course, was higher at that time because they had their 2 losses. But Incarnate
I just
Word
think other teams have passed Incarnate Word. I mean,
have they? They were the 9th at that point.
I mean, Richmond has certainly passed them. I would argue that Abilene Christian has passed them. I get that they're 10-2. I really do, and I like Incarnate Word, but I just
their quarterback's a baller.
Yeah, I like a lot of things about Incarnate Word. I don't know if this becomes an eye test thing. Does it become Incarnate Word because they've kind of been somebody? I mean, they've got some wow playoff moments with that 800 to 755 win against Sac
Yeah, that game
State.
was so fun.
They escaped Furman. They should have escaped NDSU. So they've been out there, and I don't think that doesn't matter sometimes. I just don't think Incarnate Word is the 8th seed as much as their numbers, like the schedule is what, 50 versus South Dakota's at 9 because like eye test. Who's making this damn pick anyway? Kyler?
Matt.
No, it's me making the pick. And if I'm not going Incarnate Word, then I'm going to go Illinois State or I'm going to go South Dakota. Their quality win is Southern Illinois, which is a terrible quality win. Illinois State lost to Missouri. They both lost to top teams or transitioning teams, Illinois State, Missouri State. And strength of schedule, 9th and 23rd. They're both in the Valley. One avoided SDSU.
I mean, the KPI really likes Drake.
They really likes Drake. Yep.
100%.
Illinois State sucks. They do suck. They're not good. They're a bad team. This whole process is not fun. Okay.
I mean, Seth puts Abilene Christian out there. That's a really great stat that Seth puts.
All right. I'm going to be the people hate. I'm going to be the person people hate, so then it gets easy. I'm going to put Incarnate Word in as the 8th seed. I'm going to go off what the
committee, though, to be honest.
What the committee, 10 wins. I'm going to go Incarnate Word there. Rev hates it. Everybody hates it.
Yeah, don't love it.
But it's probably going to happen.
But as a committee, you're right. It's probably going to happen. I mean, none of us are going to like it. Well, I mean, Andrew, Zach, Neil, they'll like it. They should like it. Matt likes it, but that's how we know it's wrong. Yeah, no, I mean, it's tough. It's tough who gets that last bye versus who gets a home game and has to go to Incarnate Word. If I'm the teams that are being considered for 9 and 10 and 11, I salivate over that 9 seed at this point.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, Jamie, you are our 9th pick here, and if we're into the 9-win territory, like Incarnate Word 10, Abilene Christian has 9 wins, Tarleton State, Illinois State 9 wins, South Dakota still hanging out there, Stony Brook, others. What do you think? Who are we going with?
I think it's either South Dakota or Abilene Christian. Outside shot of Rhode Island.
South Dakota, 9th strength of schedule, Abilene Christian, 32nd. So it's not.
So I'm going to, by the eye test, South Dakota deserves to be a top 8 seed. I think I think at this point, we have to make South Dakota the 9. Because I'm not going to say they get a gift to have to go to Incarnate Word, but they get a gift to have to go to Incarnate Word. Plus, I'd like to see that offensive matchup. I want to see how South Dakota's defense would play. Just remember, South Dakota's defense is good.
Yeah.
So how would they handle Zach Calzada? Hey, I'd like to see that matchup. And it might be a better game in San Antonio. South Dakota, I'm not sure I can be talked out of it from them at the 9.
No, I think also when you're looking at like analytics, most analytics are going to favor the Valley teams anyway. And the close losses don't really hurt. And they're not bringing polls in. Now, the polls have an influence, 100%. The polls have an influence, but they're not bringing them in the room with them. In most analytics sites, I haven't dove through each one. I mean, one of them's ridiculous for having Drake number 1. But most analytics, I would assume, is going to favor a Valley team, especially with close losses to the best teams in the nation. So, I mean, eye test, yeah, you're putting the arguably 4th, 5th best team in as a 9 seed is pretty wild. But, yeah.
Very cool. Okay, Rev, you're coming in hot, man. And welcome back. Rev is going to pick our 10th seed. And South Dakota Incarnate Word just went up at 8 and 9. And your options, my man, you're looking at probably an Abilene Christian. You're looking at, Illinois State was brought up. We have Rhode Island at 10 and 2, Stony Brook 9 and 3. We scroll up, we're in maybe Montana territory, probably not yet. What are we thinking there, Rev? Where's your mind going?
Well, because of the KPI, it's obviously Drake, right? But no, all seriousness, like I can see the arguments that you guys put in for like Incarnate Word and stuff. But I think the 10 seed, since they weren't put in 9, is going to be the Fighting Keith Pattersons. the Abilene Christian Wildcats. I think they'll be a 10 seed. I think they might actually get the 9 seed when the committee does this, but
I just don't think you can lose to the worst team in the FCS, North Alabama, and jump above a Rhode Island who only has one FCS loss.
32nd strength of schedule for Abilene Christian. Rhode Island
fine.
at 10-2, 43rd. So it's not egregious.
Or, again, Rhode Island's losses are Delaware, who would be a top 8 seed easily, and then Minnesota. They didn't lose to North Alabama.
I kind of like that argument.
Let's look at quality wins.
Neither
and that's where Abilene has them over the barrel. I mean, yeah, quality of the wins between the two teams.
Well, Rhode Island's is better because New Hampshire's in the playoffs.
I think New Hampshire is better than Central Arkansas.
Yeah, New Hampshire's in the playoffs.
Yeah, but New Hampshire's not better than Tarleton State.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think that could be – they already beat a playoff team. Abilene Christian beat Central Arkansas.
They have the most, like what Steph stated from earlier, right? I can pull up that comment again, but Abilene Christian's got the most wins over teams. Yeah, like.
All right. I'm not against it.
Yep.
I think you could flip a coin on those two. So
no, the Big South already did that, and you saw how that went.
They did it they screwed themselves. They should have lied.
Yeah, they should have. But Jamie got them not to. So never forget. Okay, Abilene Christian comes in at the 10 seed, and we have 6 seeds that remain, and number 11 goes back to you, Jamie. What are we thinking?
11's me. Yeah, I think you've got to go Rhodey here. I think you've got to go Rhodey.
43rd strength of schedule, 10 wins, 2 losses. One of those losses being FBS and transitioning Delaware. A win over a playoff team, New Hampshire. So, yeah, I couldn't agree more that it's Rhode Island. I'd probably
think it's Rhodey.
Okay. I'm kind of upset that I didn't put them even way earlier, to be honest, now that I look over that resume.
There's an argument for Rhode Island, probably anywhere from 8 to about 13. Just like we're doing our top 25s. That's kind of where we're looking.
Yep. Very cool. All right, Rhode Island, I think that's a pretty easy one. Kylor. No, I'm number 12. Dang it.
I think you messed it all up, but that's okay.
You got normally I let the experts do what I'm supposed to get the easy layup where it's like it was hard, and then it's like, well, obviously now we do Rhode Island.
Did we not put SEMO on there at all?
SEMO is not in there yet.
No, that the loss to Lindenwood, and they don't have a whole lot of quality. It's not.
No.
77th strength of schedule, real bad.
Yeah, that
like awful. Okay, so I know they got 10 wins. So then I got to let's look at 9-win teams. Richmond's already out there. Stony Brook beat William and Mary, who with a 56, that's not terrible. 9-3 for Stony Brook. This is probably where Illinois State makes more sense, but I just know they suck. I know they're bad. Just know they are.
Well, so does everybody left.
You can just see it when you watch them. You're like, oh, you're just a bad team. Oof. 8-4 Eastern Kentucky. Beat Tarleton State. 9-win Tarleton State. What are you guys thinking? Guide me down this path.
I think Illinois State.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think for like these, and it's gotta it'd be wild to have a 9. I get you think they suck. A 9-win Missouri Valley team not getting on the field. When has there ever been? Think of it this way, Matt, because it's one extra game. Name one time there's been an 8-win Missouri Valley team not in the top 8 seed.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's happened. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I like Seth Meyer. Illinois State doesn't even have any decent wins. It's all blowout losses to good teams and wins over trash teams. God,
that's the Missouri Valley for you right now.
I hate that. Seth, I hate that I put them in. I hate that I did it, but I get the argument. And if we're thinking like the committee, they're going to pop up on here. They're probably going to pop up 10 or 11. So just buckle up for that. I don't like it, but I'll go with Illinois State, and we'll let the chaos resume from there. Kylor, unlucky number 13. Where are you thinking now?
Man, this is where I'm probably going to get a lot of hate. And I think one of their losses is absolute trash. but Log Riz, you're gonna get a home game. You're gonna get a seed. That UND
Now over
loss sucks.
SEMO and stuff. Oh,
That UND loss sucks. The Weber State loss is horrible. The other two aren't bad. And again, that Missouri State win is actually better, in my opinion, because they would be a for sure playoff team and arguably be, top 3 or 4 from the Valley. So I think I'm going to put Montana over a SEMO, over a Stony Brook.
can I? Eastern Kentucky, even maybe.
I would go. I think I'd honestly look at Tarleton here.
Look at Tarleton.
I think I'd look at Tarleton.
9-win Tarleton, 49th strength of schedule. The Grizz are 35th. That's a separation.
Tarleton doesn't have any solid.
They have no wins, and I think
Montana's got better wins.
If it was 2-win different, maybe it would.
Montana's got better wins.
A one, we've seen it all the time where it's, and we can think it sucks. We can think it is what it is. But typically the Valley and Big Sky, at least the last few years, get a benefit of the doubt of I think one more win is kind of what when you're looking at a seed. That's kind of the room for error. So that 9-win Tarleton is probably, in my opinion, the same as an 8-win Montana. And I think Montana beats Tarleton, even though I think Montana sucks.
That's oh man. I see the comments about the 10-win SEMO team. And I actually feel where people are coming from. 77th strength of schedule. God, that's terrible. And when you look at SEMO's wins, there's a lot of close wins for bad teams. But Montana's not great either.
No.
I don't think
that Missouri State win is, I think, it's bigger than anything.
Can I argue Stony Brook at 9 wins with an FBS loss, so 2 FCS losses? William & Mary, who is probably one of the last 6-7 teams out, lost to 2 other playoff teams over. Can I argue that over Montana, or is that strength of schedule? You could.
Argument? I think the committee would put, let's say, these two together, and I think they're going to have a who do you think wins? And I still think they probably are going to pick Montana in that head-to-head matchup.
Chris Hammond Weber lost worse than the Lindenwood loss.
He says it's greater than.
Greater than. Yeah.
I think I was thinking Montana was going to be the 15, but as it gets down here, I think them at 13 is probably where there it is.
That Weber loss is horrible.
But it is terrible.
Lindenwood is worse.
Worse, yeah. I think it's Montana, Kylor. I think I'm with you.
Yeah. North Alabama, worse. Right? Weber sucks, but they don't suck as bad as North Alabama.
Yeah, SEMO's strength of schedule is trash, says Taco King. He's not wrong on that. It's terrible.
Yeah.
All right, but you get the call. You get the call, and we will go with Montana.
Doing it.
Here's the thing. We're not upset at each other here because this is freaking hard. These teams are not good at this point, and it's like, yeah, hopefully we throw darts like freaking Ted Lasso because it's getting tough. Okay, Jamie, number 14. What do you got?
Yeah,
I'm mad we put Montana there because Jamie said, I thought we were doing them at the 15, and I'm picking 15, so I could have just stolen that.
Yeah, so when you look at what's left, I honestly feel like there's only really 3 teams left that you can put in as seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm going to put – so I'll tell you who I think the teams are. I think it's Tarleton, I think it's Stony Brook, and I think it's maybe SEMO.
I think so.
You could – so I think you got to go Stony Brook here. I think they both have similar records between them and Tarleton. I think I'm down to them and Tarleton. But SEMO's got the better wins. Or Stony Brook's got the better wins, I believe.
Yeah, Stony Brook's got over
their win over William & Mary is better than any seed win that Tarleton has. I'm going to.
And their losses aren't bad either.
Yeah, I'm going with Stony Brook, and I don't feel as bad about it at all.
I would have liked Stony Brook even on the last pick there too. So I agree. I think that they're well deserving of that. 15 for me. I don't think you guys would even consider. I don't think you would consider like a curveball like Eastern Kentucky over some of these other teams.
Mm-mm.
Who's the other two you said, Kylor or Jamie?
I said SEMO
and Tarleton.
SEMO and Tarleton.
I'm gonna make the argument for Eastern over Tarleton at the end.
You could make
but
that.
SEMO for sure. SEMO for sure. 10 wins. They're going to be a seed. They are a 10-win team. 77 strength of schedule. It's not great, but to be honest, 10 wins is going to look pretty sexy when you're debating 8-win teams. So
Yeah.
I'm going to put SEMO in there at the 15 seed. SEMO.
So then you got to you got to sell us on your Eastern Kentucky over Tarleton then, because I think Jamie and I are set.
Eastern Kentucky, 2 FBS losses. So that's why they're 8-4. I don't know what trash Stetson Wagner team they could have played to equal it out at 9-3. Head to head, Eastern Kentucky beat Tarleton State. Ranked wins at the time are junk, but they did that to Central Arkansas. Tarleton hasn't beat anybody. They lost to Eastern Kentucky. Okay. They both lost to Abilene Christian. Yes, Southern Utah isn't great, but that Southern Utah loss, also Southern Utah is not a team that is complete trash. They were a team that we were considering at 7-5.
Yeah, yes. Southern Utah is one of those teams that's got to learn to win. They have 3 losses to ranked teams by a total of 7 points. But we talk about wins here. So
yeah, talking about wins, and Eastern Kentucky beat Tarleton State, and I'm sorry that they scheduled 2 FBS opponents. So Eastern Kentucky's schedule, because to be honest, I don't know exactly who they played for those FBS opponents, but I'm going to look it up here real quick, see if it even matters or sways your guys' opinions at all. But yeah, they got annihilated by Mississippi State, and then they got blown out by Western Kentucky, who's also a bad team. But
Western Kentucky's got a chance to play for their conference title in a bad conference.
Okay. And yeah, beat Tarleton State only by 4 points, but they got the win. I don't know. I think there's an argument to be made there. Tarleton State, though, Tarleton State's strength of schedule 49th. Eastern Kentucky is 40th. That's probably because they played Tarleton. But it sounds crazy. I guess we could look anywhere else along the board. Let's see what the comments say. There's
I don't think they're going to help you with this one.
Nope. I'm getting WKU love. Got a little bit of Southern Utah has the best resume, says Seth Meyer.
Have the teams left out? They got a good one.
It's not my call, though. It's your call, Kylor. And I don't know. Head to head really gets to me. Like, well, you beat the.
Here's the thing.
I will say, Kylor, I think Matt made a good argument.
He did make a good argument. Here's also what he did not make. Tarleton's going to have 500 times the fans as an Eastern Kentucky game. ESPN doesn't want to lose all the money. I think your argument makes sense. It really does. And the 2 FBS losses is different, right? Because now we're looking at the same amount of, FCS losses. What was the strength of schedule between the 2?
49th for Tarleton, 40th for
so it's the same, doesn't matter.
Eastern Kentucky. Kind of a coin flip. We probably shouldn't use that as a thing. Yeah, Tarleton State. 14-point win over North Alabama. They beat Southeastern Louisiana by 3.
Yeah.
In overtime, they beat Southern Utah by 1.
I definitely think 10. Duquesne. No, man, Matt. No, I'm going Tarleton. Screw you. I'm going Tarleton.
I knew you'd do that.
They're bringing in 10,000 more fans. They want some money. They don't want that fan base on the road. This is an FBS.
But I made a good argument.
You made actually a great argument that makes more sense.
You made a phenomenal argument.
Probably should be above Tarleton. But I'm going to play devil's advocate and look at sometimes Montana didn't deserve a seed, and they got it because of home field advantage. They want that money a little bit. Tarleton is a booming business compared to EKU. Yeah, we're going to give it to Tarleton.
This is the compliment of the century. Ron says, is Matt an insurance salesman? If not, ... Kyler's after the military gig, Kyler's going to hire me. I'm already booked. Okay, Jamie, I'm going to pop you off the screen, and I'll bring you back here in a minute or two, unless you are ready to go.
I'm not ready. I got to put the matchups together now that we.
All right, FCS Fans Nation. So I'm bringing Rev back out here, and I'm going to close the screen down here. Actually, no, we'll just show the bracket while Rev does his thing. And Jamie Williams is prepping the bracket in the background of our 16 seeds and then where these teams would go based off of our hypothetical.
It makes it real easy because now when you have the 16 seeds, now you're just looking at geography. It's easy.
It absolutely is easy. Okay, so for fans out there, there's over 150 of you guys still out with us. We super appreciate you guys joining us. Your comments have been phenomenal. While Jamie builds the bracket, more than welcome to throw out any questions you may have, comments, football or not, and away we go. Here you go, Honey Badger. Does how NDSU or MSU win their last game make a difference in the seeding? NDSU close game, Montana State blowout, or is it cut and dry in your eyes? I was wrong about Sac State SDSU 2022. I don't think it's as cut as dry as everybody thinks it is. Kylor says it is done.
Yeah, and I was right. I said South Dakota State would get that. Even though everything leaned towards Sacramento State, I even said, yeah, if you look at resume, if you look at everything, Sac State deserves to be above South Dakota State, but South Dakota State's the better team, and they're just going to get the 1 seed. So I was right then. I'm right now. If NDSU wins out, it doesn't matter how close it is. Also, because South Dakota is a much better team than Montana. I mean, at the end of the day, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, I think as long as NDSU wins, they're 1 seed.
Kylor, this is great. Kennedy, great human on Twitter, great follower. It won't make a difference for Montana State or NDSU, but it might make a difference for the Grizz and USD. Agree?
That's fair. In terms of where they would maybe get seeded. If it's a close game for Montana, maybe they boost up. If it's a blowout, maybe they don't get seeded, right? Because we were on the fence on them. South Dakota, if it's a close win, it's going to be hard to keep them out of that top 8 seed for sure, even with the losses and without the wins. But if it's a blowout, maybe it's a little easier to put an Incarnate Word above them.
No doubt.
So, yeah.
Chris Hammond, Jordan Thule here, also FCS Gold member. He wants to know, how far does NDSU drop if they lose to USD? How high does USD go if they win? Those are great questions. So let's play Chaos Town. Let's say South Dakota beats NDSU there at the end. Montana State's obviously the 1. We think South Dakota State actually would hit the 2, correct, Kylor? Or does
I do, but Jamie says pretty much NDSU would still be the 2, but I don't think so.
So then you would have NDSU who beat SDSU, SDSU who beat USD, USD who beat NDSU. USD will lack an extra FCS win like the others. They also will have a D2 win, so that's going to hurt them. I think USD at best gets the 3 if they beat NDSU at best. But even that, I think could be a
still
stretch.
Be behind NDSU. I just think it would go Montana State on that, then South Dakota and NDSU, and then USD, and then probably Davis. But I know Jamie and a lot of other people would still think it'd be MSU, NDSU, then South Dakota State, then South Dakota. But either one it's coin flip. Who cares?
I think that they would punish the team. I think the winner of that game would get the hookup. Montana State fans are about to murder me. Would get the hookup to go to Bozeman. I think it would be I think if USD beats NDSU, I think they will send NDSU to Brookings as the 3 to go to 2. And I think they will send USD to Bozeman. And you can say that, what you think, Bozeman, we've won this many games. They have a huge home winning streak. But I think that's better for USD. They don't want to go to Brookings and Fargo because okay.
I like this question from Gregory, and I picked Chattanooga. So here's the reason why. It's in regards to the losses. They play 2 FBS teams. That's one less loss that actually counts against your resume.
Chattanooga, Western Carolina.
That's why I would put them in, because I don't view it as the same. They'd be 7-3 in the committee's eyes versus a 7-4 in the committee's eyes.
Jamie Williams coming back on. I'll let you pop up your screen if you can. If you need help from me, there we go. Okay, for the people still with us, and it keeps climbing. This is great. Jamie Williams, break down our bracket for us based off the seedings and where people are going to be traveling.
All right. Well, that didn't work like I thought it would. Let's go back. All right. So we'll just start up here with the first quadrant in the North Dakota State bracket. Obviously, the 16 seed we have as Tarleton. I have New Hampshire traveling down to Stephenville. I'll explain some of that as we get through it. Regionality doesn't make as much sense, but you'll see as we get through other things that will wind up where we are. In the Incarnate Word portion of the bracket at 8, because the 9 seed South Dakota, we've just got Drake coming from Des Moines to go play South Dakota. So kind of giving South Dakota a little bit of a a breather, so to speak. After
That's the number one team on the KPI.
That's right. In the UC Davis bracket, obviously they've got Montana.
And wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Quick question. Didn't South Dakota play Drake this year?
If they did, I got to change it.
I think they beat them by like 150.
They did.
If I remember.
They played.
They played.
Okay. All right. So we're
leave and get back out.
Yep.
Nope, he's doing a quick fix.
Hey,
that's a good thing to let the fans know about. If they played during the regular season, they can't match back up in round 1 for the playoffs.
Yeah,
So-
that's why I had Eastern Kentucky left when I was first doing it, but all the places left to send them were Tarleton and Abilene Christian, so can't do that. So I've moved Chattanooga to South Dakota, so that makes the most sense, I believe. Montana's going to get UT Martin. It's hard with the regionality when you're looking at, not very many teams out west where all the teams are from the east. So that's where it gets a little tough. Let's see. Who's next? Idaho's bracket with Illinois State. I'm sitting Lehigh to Illinois State. Southeast
Makes
Missouri State in the Montana State bracket will get Eastern Kentucky. I think that's pretty regional. Eastern Kentucky and SEMO. I mean, Chattanooga might be a better regional fit there, or UT Martin probably is better regional. So you could potentially see those flip. I just feel like Western Tennessee probably travels to Montana. Abilene Christian in the Richmond bracket, we're going to give them Drake, just because that makes sense. Stony Brook in the South Dakota State bracket gets Duquesne. Regionality there, have Duquesne come across to Long Island. And I've got Villanova playing Rhode Island, and they did not play in the CAA regular season. So I think this is a good spot for this kind of matchup. Teams that are pretty similar there. I think that's where they would go. Looking at this, I feel like with the teams that we've picked, I think this is the best bracket I could come up with. I think we've done a good job.
Yeah, I think it's not bad. I saw the comment, Seth Meyer, Drake is a bus trip to Illinois State. True. That is true, but Lehigh to Abilene Christian is 1,646 miles. And then you look where else you could place them. I don't know. Lehigh to SEMO, maybe. I don't know. This isn't going to be a perfect science. By the way, Jamie Williams did this in about 17 seconds, which is hard to do on a live show. I think you did a great job, Jamie. And, of course, you could make small tweaks on the back end. Looking at this bracket, let's say that this sucker is real. Let's say it's real, just for fun. Who's going to Frisco, Rev? Who are the Frisco teams in this bracket? Who's the semifinal teams and who's the Frisco teams?
I mean, it's hard. It's really hard to pick for Frisco to pick against NDSU. If it goes chalk, NDSU, Montana State. I'm interested to see what UC Davis, how far they'll go in the playoffs. A little bit, but I think if it runs chalk, it would be those four in the semis, and it makes sense. But it's really hard to go against NDSU, Montana State the way they've been playing this year. I think that's what we'll see once again in Frisco.
I think if UC Davis can get by Montana again, I think they'd have a hard time beating Idaho twice in the same season, especially because they beat them with an injured Idaho.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say, like looking at the bracket now, you might have to make a seed adjustment and put Montana at 14 and Stony Brook at 13 just to keep 3 Big Sky teams out of that quadrant there with UC Davis and Idaho. So that might be a seed change that they would make.
I think they probably just, we've seen it before. I don't think they care too much about the quadrants. I mean, if it's all they care about is if you have more than 4 teams, all 4 can't be on the same side of the bracket.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have Montana State on the other side. We've seen this before.
I just
CA,
looking at it.
One CA team on one side, the rest are on the other.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just the quadrant, the way the quadrant's set up. But I guess I've got it the same way on the other side. So
yeah,
they just can't all match up. So I mean, I like this. I think the top 3 seeds love their draw here. I really do. I think South Dakota likes its draw here.
Yeah,
I don't. I mean, you look at it. Does anybody see a way that the semifinals are not the 2 conferences we expect? Because I certainly don't.
No,
there's a big gap between them and the rest, and I don't think that gap closes in the playoffs. But you never know. Any given Saturday, something can happen. So
Yeah, if NDSU is going to have to lose to USD for people to start questioning what could happen, I think if USD pulls an upset this upcoming weekend, I think people start to flip the script a little bit in terms of like who's actually going to be there. Might not change the teams overall, but who actually makes the trip definitely could change some things up. So
I've got a question for y'all.
One from Rev. What do you got, buddy?
Which of the top 8 seeds gets trounced in the first game? In their first game?
Ooh, in this matchup?
Incarnate Word.
Honestly, I can see. Yeah. That'd be a hell of a game. That would suck for Incarnate Word. Honestly, I think there's multiple seeds that could lose. I think North Dakota State's fine, Montana State's fine, South Dakota State's fine, and Idaho's probably fine. Any of their other ones could actually lose. Even Montana could probably beat UC Davis if they played again. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I would bet on UC Davis to win, but Richmond could easily lose to an Abilene Christian. Mercer could lose to a Villanova, Rhode Island. UC Davis could lose to a Montana. Incarnate Word can lose to a South Dakota. Or all those seeds could actually win. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of, I think, 50-50 or 40-60 games outside of the top 3 seeds.
Absolutely. Completely from the unbiased bias and admin, I could see SEMO taking down Montana State and Stony Brook being SDSU, and that would be the most likely scenarios that Montana State and SDSU lose in round 2. And away we go. So
I think we're looking at a lot of early blowouts, and by early, like probably the first 2 rounds, and then we'll see from there.
Very much.
I mean, I would, I'd love to see some of these matchups in the quarters.
This would be fun.
It would be fun, as was the mock playoff special, ladies and gentlemen. A consistent 150 plus on a Sunday night. Now I got to shameless plug this before you all leave, and for anybody who's capping. Last year on the selection show, we will be live again 11 a.m. next week for the selection show. Mimosas in the morning, 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern, 30 minutes before the committee starts picking. We will have ESPN rolling on the live screen reacting. Why listen to ESPN pundits who don't give 2 bleeps about us? Listen to FCS fans. Get your comments showed. Let's go get 1,000 people streaming with us again next weekend. So join us 11 a.m. That will be next weekend's show. Will be 11 to 1 all the way through the selection show to actually see the true stuff. For all the people who did stick it out with us, we truly, truly, truly appreciate you guys sticking around. Guys like Cody and others with these great compliments. It really helps us. We really enjoy doing this content for you all. We enjoy having great people like the Rev here being part of our community, and just appreciate everybody part of FCS Fans Nation. Rev, you got the first word. I'll give you the final one. And what's your final thoughts here before we roll out on the mock playoff special?
I just am looking forward to one final good regular season, week of football. Excited for the playoffs, excited for Frisco, excited to see all your cherub faces in Frisco in January. It's always a blast. It's always a blast.
It is a blast. And anytime there's a blast, it always makes a gigantic boom.